Я почекаю, поки воно буде включене. Все, запис у нас пішов. Отже, дякуємо ще так Святославу за чудову розповідь. І, друзі, зараз ми, мабуть, такий один з найбільш титулованих наших доповідачів візьме слово. Мова піде про директора з розвитку, так, компанії Freelancer.com. Ось Adam Byrnes. I'll switch to English. Adam, when you will start speaking, you'll tell how it's exactly, like, what's the proper way to pronounce. I'm sorry for my misspelling if it's something not correct. So Adam Byrnes, let's say. Okay, and Adam will be speaking in English. Hello, yeah, and he's responsible for expanding Freelancer globally, especially being focused on the markets where people are not native speakers, English native speakers, I mean. So basically, yes, like Ukraine, this is the target market, especially for the competence of Adam. And I'm sure that, guys, all of you will get a proper way to see how this big company works, what are their opportunities for you, because Adam is the man who is in charge directly for this. So Adam, all the best to you. It's a big honor for us that you joined our event, and I hope that both, like, your company, you, and our participants will gain from this opportunity of cooperation. Good luck, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Just before I get started, how do I load my presentation? Here we go. Can everyone see that document? Hello? Yeah?
I will just add a little bit. So yeah, you go to the documents, then you open presentation, and on the upper right corner, yeah, this is it. So good luck.
See it now? Excellent. Okay, so as was mentioned, my name is Adam Byrnes, and I'm responsible for the international expansion of Freelancer.com. So Freelancer is basically the world's largest freelancing and crowdsourcing marketplace. And what that means is we connect entrepreneurs and startups and small businesses from all around the world with freelancers from all around the world to kind of get work done. And the kinds of work that you see go through our site are things like sort of web development, design, translation, copywriting, and many more. And I guess the real key for you guys is that, you know, Freelancer can be a great way for you to make money online. I'm just going to skip over the next slide as it's for investors mostly. So what do we do? We're actually the world's largest of all the kind of freelancing marketplaces. We have about 15 million users worldwide, and about 7.5 million jobs. 7.5 million jobs have gone through our site to date. And if you add up all the values of those jobs, it's worth over $2 billion US. Yeah, I'm just trying to switch to the next slide. Yeah, so you can kind of see, you know, can you see the presentation now? Okay, yeah, I think it's just a bit slow to change between slides. Excellent. So basically, this kind of gives you a bit of an example of some of the work that you can actually get done on Freelancer. So, you know, and this is kind of very visual. So you can kind of do things like 3D animation, 3D rendering, design, engineering, web development, mobile apps, all this kind of stuff. So if you have basically kind of any skill that you can sell online, then Freelancer could be a really good way for you to make money. And to give you guys a bit of an idea as to kind of how much money there actually is to be made, you know, there was a McKinsey quote that basically stated that 160 million jobs, or 11% of the projected, you know, 1.46 billion services jobs worldwide, could be carried out remotely. You know, which I think at least is a pretty amazing statistic, and kind of gives you guys a bit of an idea as to just how much work there is available online. So yeah, so as I said, Freelancer is the world's largest freelancing and crowdsourcing marketplace by both, you know, numbers of users and number of jobs. And our real thing is that we help small businesses, startups, entrepreneurs, and all those kind of people turn their ideas into reality. So, for example, this is an example of the kind of project that was done. Someone wanted an industrial design of a water kettle. It sounds kind of silly, but this is a business for someone. And there was an industrial designer on Freelancer that won $240 for providing the design that you can see there. By the way, let me know if you want me to slow down or if you're having trouble understanding me, because yeah. On the other hand of things, on one side we kind of empower entrepreneurs and startups and small businesses, but on the other side of things, we actually change lives around the world by providing opportunity and income. And here I've just given the example of a guy in Pakistan named Shazib. He's a graphic designer, and he's done, I think, about 60 to 70 projects through the site. And as I said, given the average project value of about $100, he's probably made about 10 grand, which to you and I, to a lot of people that doesn't sound which to a lot of people doesn't sound like a lot, but in Pakistan, that can be a huge amount of money. And I know in many other countries around the world, $200 a job, it is actually quite a lot. And so I think that there's a big opportunity for Ukrainian freelancers to jump on our platform and start earning. I'll give you a little bit of an idea as to what our online economy looks like. Yeah, exactly. So with this, this graph here basically shows where jobs are coming from and where they're going to. So you can see where the kind of lines are pink, that's where the jobs are actually coming from. So you can see there's quite a lot of jobs coming out of the USA, coming out of Australia, and coming out of Europe. And these kind of jobs are generally being done in Asia, but that's not strictly true. And so you can kind of see that there's a lot of jobs going out of Europe. It's kind of like a pink line leaving Europe and heading into the United States. And there's pink lines heading out of, basically every country around the world and heading into other countries. And so you kind of get this, by summing up all our, jobs, we can build up like a big graph, kind of like this, of what our economy actually looks like. This graph was actually done for the year of 2013. So I believe it was a sample of about 10% of all our jobs that went through the platform in 2013. I'll show you guys what it looks like in 2014. Like that, and you can see that just the raw amount of jobs has just increased hugely. The business is really growing really drastically, and the number of jobs is really growing really drastically too every year. To give you guys a bit of an idea, our kind of company goal, I guess, is to give 1 billion people in the world a job of some sort. So at the same time, it's to kind of empower a new wave of small businesses and startups to kind of employ people too. So we kind of have a dual goal because we have two kinds of customers. I'll bring that graph back later if you guys would like to see it, or I can, if anyone wants, I'll give you my email at the end and you guys can just email me and I'll send you a PNG with that. We actually have a YouTube video too, which I'll put it in a link in chat at the end. So let me kind of give you a bit more background on our company, just kind of, so that you guys kind of understand our business model. As I've kind of stressed a few times, we connect small businesses, startups, consumer employers, entrepreneurs, just about anybody really who needs something done with a large, high quality, on-demand entrepreneurial workforce that you guys could be a part of. This kind of shows, some graphs about the amount of liquidity in the marketplace. And what do I mean by that? I kind of mean like how easily jobs are matched. So, for how many bids are actually, going into projects, how many entries into contests, and I'll explain what I mean by that in a minute. But you can kind of see that, the number of bids between, November 2013 and November 2014 has almost doubled. That means that, the number of active workers on the site has just exploded. And you can see that in contest entries too. And, these guys are doing real high quality work. And it's really important for us that occurs, because it's really important that the small business owners and the startups actually have a really strong and positive experience, because otherwise they won't come back and post more jobs into the marketplace. We're a huge international country. We have about 400 employees worldwide. Our support team works, basically 24/7 by 365. They're always there. They speak about 10 languages. The actual site is in about 32 supported languages, and in about a week's time, it'll be in Ukrainian too. Yeah, absolutely. It's certain. Sorry, I'm just answering a question from chat here. I've been asked, Adam, is it viable for someone in the US, Canada to offer jobs in Freelancer.com? And absolutely. In fact, the US and Canada is where a large portion of our jobs come from. So, it's typically like a US small business who might want to get a website done, or something like that. And so what they'll do is they'll jump on Freelancer, they'll post a job that might say, hello, I'm looking to get a website for my cafe. I want to build it in PHP, MySQL, JavaScript, CSS, HTML, etc. And here's some mock-ups that I've kind of done myself as to what I want my website to look like. And then what'll happen is a whole bunch of freelancers from around the world will kind of jump on and they'll bid on this project for the amount that they're, basically how much they're going to charge the employer. And then the employer kind of picks a freelancer based on the bids, and then the job goes off. How would I compare a freelancer with Odesk and Elance? That's a really good question. Look, we consider that Freelancer is kind of like the marketplace for small businesses and entrepreneurs. So small business, like Odesk and Elance tend to be, their model tends to focus around big kind of corporate companies, ones with hundreds of employees, outsourcing many more kind of more menial kind of tasks. Not always, obviously, their marketplace does well as well, but typically their main focus is around kind of large corporate companies, and they build products for large corporate companies. On the other hand, we basically focus on small businesses, entrepreneurs, your kind of average kind of person on the street. So, all our products are kind of built from, maybe, single employers, maybe small businesses, startups, all that kind of thing. Small kind of companies looking to access a global talent base, basically. We support sort of 19 currencies from around the globe, and yeah, we've launched in a whole bunch of countries too. So yeah, so this kind of gives you a bit of an insight, a little bit more of an insight into the actual marketplace itself. So our goal basically is to be in every job, is to handle every kind of job, in every country, in every language, in every currency, at any time, all around the world. And the top kind of countries where the jobs come from, as I kind of previously alluded to, a large portion is from the United States and Canada. The UK and India and Australia are pretty much the other major players. But then you can see here that in that pie graph, other actually makes up 44%. So there's a lot of jobs coming from all around the world. And then the other graph below that kind of gives you a bit of an idea as to the breadth of opportunities too. Majority of jobs, well, not majority, but about half of all jobs on Freelancer are in some way related to websites, IT, or software. Another 41% are related to design. 17% are just purely for mobile and mobile apps. And then there's kind of like a big long tail of jobs. Basically anything that you can imagine, you can probably work on Freelancer. And I'm talking about aerospace engineering, biotechnology, sales, mechanical engineering, whole bunch of things basically. So pretty much anything that you can imagine. If you have some sort of skill or profession, you could probably find jobs for that skill or profession on our website. Now the average job is $200 roughly, but that actually varies quite wildly by category of work. So some categories the average job might be more like $50, some more like $400, $500, up to $1,000. So I'm just going to answer a question from the chat now. So someone here has asked, does it mean that it's less competitive for freelancers? Well, I would argue all freelance marketplaces are competitive, and to some extent, that's a good thing because employers need to have a good experience for them to actually come back and keep posting jobs. Otherwise, there'll simply be no work. But later on in my presentation, I'll actually address, some top tips and how to get ahead of the competition, especially if you're just starting out. So basically, how do we actually make money as a business? You'll find that we're quite transparent about this. So for employers, it's completely free to post a project. It's free for them to review bids. It's free to talk with the freelancers. We actually have an instant chat system, a bit similar to like Facebook chat or WhatsApp, that you can use to kind of chat to your potential employer if you've won a job, or even if the employer wants to discuss with you your proposal. On the other hand, for freelancers, it's also mostly free. So it's free to view projects. It's free to bid. It's free to talk to the employers. The only time we charge you is when you actually win a job. And our commissions are, I believe, at least quite cheap. I mean, between 3 and 10%, which I think is not that much. We also offer memberships for kind of users who have established themselves more on the site and are kind of looking to make more. Hi, can you guys hear me? Yeah, awesome. Sorry about that, guys. I guess I just got thrown off for some reason. Awesome. I'll just kind of kick off. Where did we get up to? When did I cut out? Sorry. Does someone want to just kind of let me know? Okay. Cool. Okay, so I got up to talking about memberships. Can you guys see the presentation now? Awesome. Again, sorry about that, guys. I'll just continue on from here. So yeah, so basically we offer memberships for kind of more frequent users. And they kind of vary from anywhere from sort of $1 a month US dollar up to 200 US dollars. And typically, those provide kind of assorted benefits for freelancers, including, more bids. They kind of upgrade your profile a bit, all this kind of thing. Kind of things that if you earn majority of your income through, you'll probably want to pay for one of those. But if you're just getting started, we have a membership called Plus, which we kind of give out free trials for, and you'll find that's not normally enough to kind of win your first project and get you going. We also kind of offer all sorts of other things to kind of make a little bit of money on the side. So and most of those are targeted at the employers. So project upgrades. We have contests, which I'll explain a bit more later. Upgrades for bids, transaction fees, which are minor. That's kind of when employers deposit money onto the site, because PayPal charges us some money, so we have to kind of make that money back off them, and that's pretty much it. A vast majority of our money basically comes from that commission that I kind of mentioned earlier. All right, guys, I'm back. I'm just going to boot up the presentation. Can you hear me now? Awesome. Sorry about that. This is just another example of some of the work that kind of gets done on the site. I'll skip over this slide fairly quickly because we're sort of a little pressed for time, and there's a lot more stuff I kind of want to talk about. This is an example, a real life example of a project. And so you can see that basically what, someone wanted a kind of like a sliding puzzle app, which for a mobile app developer is, reasonably simple. And yeah, so basically they were kind of just looking to get the basic design done, not the actual development. And you can see here that this was actually done, for about $100. I think, oh, sorry, about $50. And as I said, that's a real project that kind of went through the site. I think it went through about six months ago, maybe a little less. Here's another example. This is actually a 3D modeling, a 3D engineering design. So basically the idea here is that, someone wanted a 3D model based on a conceptual drawing for, a little kind of, I actually don't know what it does, a little kind of, they describe it themselves as a custom knob, which sounds ridiculous. But anyway, they got that done for kind of, about $65 Australian, which is about 60 US dollars, maybe 50. So I'm going to quickly run through now, what are the major things driving this? And I'm going to make this quick. It's pretty shocking to me, and obviously you guys sitting here, but only about 40% of the world's population are actually on the internet today. The other 60% have actually never logged on, and I think there's going to be a pretty dramatic change in the next 5 years, where the other 60% are going to come online. A lot of these kind of people that are coming online are going to come online from areas that basically aren't sort of North America, Australia, and Europe. They're going to come online in Latin America, in Africa, in Asia. Because those kind of areas don't actually have the internet yet. And the kind of first thing that these guys do when they actually get online is they start looking to make money. And that's kind of what the business is predicated on. We kind of have this large global workforce, and then at the same time, in places like the United States, there's kind of like this big shortage for talent, and all we kind of do is match the two up. The other great thing, which is on the previous slide, is that you can now learn anything online. There's sites like Coursera, Khan Academy, all these kind of things. And what's really awesome about that is if you want to learn like a new trade or a new skill, for example, let's say that you can't do any of the skills on Freelancer. That's fine, because you can jump onto something like Khan Academy or PSD Tutes, and there's a whole variety of sites like this, and you can actually learn for free, which is pretty amazing. And then you can start making an income on Freelancer based on what you've learned by selling your skills. That was just an example of someone's profile. And this is kind of one of the other big kind of drivers behind our business is that software is eating the world. And what I mean by that is every kind of industry is waking up one day to kind of realize that it's a software industry. I mean, today, most people don't call people, using physical phone lines. They call using their mobiles or Skype. The biggest advertising company in the world today is Google. All kind of design work is done on a computer. Pretty much everything can be done on a computer online, which is pretty amazing. Which then means it can be done on Freelancer. We often compare ourselves to like eBay and Amazon because about maybe 15 to 20 years ago in kind of like the United States and Europe and Australia, there was this kind of big push towards marketplaces for products, where Freelancer is basically that same push all over again, but for services, and it kind of replicates what tends to happen in all economies. They start developing goods and then they move into services where there's more money to be made, basically. So let's get right down to it. How do you actually go about making money online? Well, if you want to, you can become a freelancer. So let me kind of run through some of the benefits of being a freelancer. The best benefit in my mind of being a freelancer is you actually get to choose when you want to work. If you're not a morning person or something like that, you can wake up at midday. At the end of the day, as long as you get your projects done and bring in the income that you need, then to me that's a pretty amazing thing. Some other advantages are like you actually are your own boss. You don't have a boss as a freelancer. You work for yourself. You choose how much you want to get paid. Basically as much as you possibly can, while still finding a stable stream of money. You choose where you want to get paid. You don't have to work in an office or anything like that. You can kind of you can kind of work from your backyard, or as this guy's doing from a little beach, basically on a tree. Anyway, and then probably the biggest benefit as well is the fact that you're actually in control. At the end of the day, you kind of make or break your own success. You're completely responsible for it, and to me at least, that's kind of exciting. So how do you actually become a freelancer in kind of 5 easy steps? And I'm going to go into a lot more detail on each of these. So basically the first thing you need is something to sell, some sort of skills. So assuming you have those and you kind of want to embrace the freelancing lifestyle, then sign up to our site or any others for that matter, but I would recommend ours, obviously. I'm a little biased. There's sort of 750 categories of work, and the most important thing to do is to tell us what you're actually good at. And the way you do that on Freelancer is you do a thing called you select your skills, which you'll see you kind of get prompted to do that fairly early on when you sign up. That's really important, because if you don't do that, then we don't kind of know what kind of work to show you guys. Then what happens is you basically go through. We have, as I said, I think we get between 4,500 to 5,000 new projects posted every day, with an average of $200 each. So there are literally thousands coming in, and then you kind of need to go through those, and we kind of add filters based on your skills and a couple of other things. And then you get to kind of choose which projects you want to work on. Yeah, it certainly is. And then once you've found a project, the average project might get over 20 or 30 bids. So you basically need to make your bids stick out and be the best bid there. And I'm going to give you guys a couple of insider tips as to how to actually do that. And then obviously once you actually win a project, you actually have to do the work, right? Because our site runs on a reputation system, a bit like eBay. And if you kind of do a poor job doing the work, then you won't get good reputation, and you probably won't get hired again. So it is really important that you actually do a really good job for the employer. Because as I said, from our perspective, we want the employers to actually come back and post more and more and more work. Finally, obviously you want to get paid, and I'll kind of tell you how to go about that using our kind of payment system built into the site. And then once you're paid, you want to make sure that you get really high quality feedback, which kind of comes back to step 4. If you do the job really well, your employer will give you really good feedback. So this is kind of how you start. This is kind of a screenshot of our homepage. You kind of start by selecting work, instead of hiring, unless of course you want to hire, in which case we'll talk about that a little bit more later. You then select your skills, which is what I was saying, and then these skills are kind of grouped up into categories. Those categories are websites, IT and software, mobile phones and computing, writing and content, design, media, architecture, data entry, admin, engineering, science, and then there's just a bunch more. You can, translation languages, local jobs, all that kind of stuff. There's pretty much anything, as I said, pretty much anything you can imagine that can be done online can be found on Freelancer and has a skill associated with it. So the second most important thing once you've selected your skills is actually to update your profile on the site. And the question I often, and the kind of thing that I often say to people is that your profile is kind of like your storefront. If your store kind of looks like the one that's on the slides now, then that's not so good, right? Like you kind of want your storefront, which is your profile, to look as good as possible. Because I personally wouldn't physically walk into that store. I might physically walk into that store, especially with my girlfriend. But yeah, so anyway, so you might want to you really want to make sure that your profile is top quality, it looks beautiful, and really describes what you do. So what are the secrets to actually, making a really good profile page? The first is actually a profile picture. And the biggest mistake we see is people just kind of look really kind of glum in their profile picture. Yeah, a lot of people consider that to be kind of professional, but it doesn't really work in, when attempting to acquire jobs. You kind of want to look positive, upbeat. You want to smile. You want to look like, you've kind of took a bit of, done a bit of work on your appearance, so on and so forth, so that, you look really good. Another thing you can do is upload a company logo, but we actually find that people with faces rather than logos actually do a lot better on the site, and I'm kind of much more likely to actually earn, be awarded jobs and earn money. The next thing that you really want to do is kind of fill out the summary section of your profile, and I'll kind of show you what your profile looks like in a few seconds. And the idea here is basically you just want to tell employers what you actually do. You want to be a little bit salesy in that talk, but not so much. You want to be kind of crystal clear, and you also kind of get a choice to select a name for yourself. I would either just use your full name, your full personal name, or failing that, something that kind of gives a good idea as to the skills you have to offer. Now, the next most important thing after your profile picture and your skills is your portfolio. So we kind of offer the ability for you to upload any kind of visual representations or video representations of work that you've done in the past, and that's really important. Because the first thing that an employer will do upon looking at your profile is look through your portfolio, because that kind of gives them an indication as to the kind of work they're going to get if they hire you. The next kind of thing that's important, and this one involves actually earning work first, is to have a really good reviews and a 5-star reputation. And the only way to do that is to actually get work and then deliver really good quality stuff back to your employers. And not only to deliver really good quality work, but really good quality customer service too. And then the final kind of thing that you should kind of look for to kind of beef up your profile is things like exams, which we kind of offer on the site. They're basically like little kind of quizzes that you can take that'll tell an employer that you just know the basics in a particular skill. Badges, which kind of means you've worked on the site or you've achieved things. And then just sort of general achievements, which is another kind of thing that you can earn on the site. And you'll kind of see that as you sign up. Yeah, so I mean, when you're talking about the, I've been asked a question, and what do you do if you've just started and don't have a portfolio? My biggest recommendation there is actually try and do one. Just kind of do a little bit of work for yourself. Design if you're a designer, design a couple of logos. If you're a video editor, edit a couple of videos. Do it for yourself to just establish a portfolio to show. Now, obviously, portfolio, and pretty much everybody can establish a portfolio too. If you're a web developer, develop a few websites. Develop a website for yourself. You know what I mean? Like, if you're a copywriter, write some copy, upload it into your portfolio. The employers will read it. If you're a translator, grab some text off the internet, translate it. Again, show them in your portfolio. Just about everybody in every line of work can in some way fill out their portfolio. And this is kind of an example of an actual Ukrainian. Accounting, yeah, okay, maybe not accounting. I'll give you that one. Maybe you can kind of upload a couple of accounts you've done for you, maybe for your own business, or some example accounts, or something like that. Even just your CV too. Count some money. Anyway, so going back to kind of what the profile pages actually look like. This is an example of an illustrator and animator. And you can kind of see the kind of 4 pictures down the bottom there is their portfolio, and then you can see their profile pic is a logo of a bee, and these guys are actually based out of Ukraine from Kharkiv. I probably screwed the pronunciation of that. I'm sorry, but yeah, that's where they're from. And yeah, these guys are actually a reasonable little bit of money through the site. I think a couple of $1,000s, which is pretty good. And as you can see, they've also got a 5-star reputation, and they're earning decent money too. Like they're earning $25 US an hour, which is pretty good. Sorry guys, I'm just trying to move to the next slide. Just give me a second. Hello? Oh, there we go. Okay. Whoops. Here's an example of a couple more projects. This is kind of, basically a job where a guy is looking for a highly skilled programmer with someone that's with a good understanding of financial markets for basically to reverse and, to basically build him out a model or some sort of, but basically a model for trading stock. And again, he's kind of provided a budget range of roughly what he's willing to pay, $15 to $25 an hour, which again is pretty good. And I just found this today on the site. So this is a real job. It's live right now. You can go and bid on this job if you have the right skills. So as I said, the next step once you kind of bid on a job, once you go to bid on a job is kind of crafting your bid. And there's a few really important tricks here. Read the project description thoroughly and answer any questions the employer has. A lot of guys will just they'll try and bid on projects en masse, like hundreds of projects a day. And in doing so, they kind of reduce the quality of their bids. And it's those guys that you can really, really get ahead of by basically, focusing on making sure that you really understand the project description and that your bid, your proposal to the employer actually really addresses their points. You want to talk about your skills. So if the project is a design project, you might want to link to your portfolio, and you might want to talk about the kind of designs that you do. Or if you're a developer, you might want to talk about the languages that you know, and maybe link to some websites that you've built before. If the employer likes your bid, they might talk to you, and definitely, ask the employer questions too. Like even in your bid itself, ask the employer, I don't understand this particular point. Can you elaborate a little bit? Because what you really want to do is get the employer to start a chat conversation with you. Because once you're talking to them, you're already miles ahead of most of the bidders. You want to keep your bid fairly short too, because if it's really long, if it's a giant wall of text, the employer's kind of going to think, oh, maybe I'll skip this and look for something that's kind of a bit more to the point. And the final tip is proofread your bid. Make sure that it's written well. There's no spelling and grammar mistakes as much as you can. I mean, obviously, employers will overlook that. But yeah, a lot of people do make a short video on YouTube, and they link to that. That was a suggestion posted in chat, and I completely agree with that. And the final thing to remember, especially if you're just starting out, is that your first job will always be the hardest, because you don't start with a reputation. You have to obtain that on the site. And to get started, your first job is always going to be the hardest. So try extra hard. Write the best bids you can. Make sure your portfolio is amazing. As good as you can make it, and then just be really persistent. And believe me, you will get a job. It'll just take time and effort. And then once you got that first job, it just gets so much easier, because then you have a reputation, and your employers can see that other employers have had a good experience with you before. So I hope that kind of gives you a bit of an idea as to kind of how you might write a decent bid. You actually can do that, and people do that quite often, and I would highly recommend that. And I'll kind of go through a little bit how to hire people later. It's really quite simple though. Here are some secrets to kind of being a freelancer. So time management, basically setting yourself a schedule, because again, you work for yourself, so you can't just kind of rush, skimp on your hours or under deliver or deliver things late, because then you won't get that reputation that you need. At the same time, you don't want to work insanely hard, right? Like, you have to have a life. You might have to at the very beginning while you're just starting out, but in the long term, you want to be working reasonable hours. And then the other thing is, you kind of want to schedule out kind of your times for rest, because if you just spend all your day working, then you'll kind of lose concentration over time. A couple of other things about freelancing. So people talk about the feast-starve cycle. And what that really means is that sometimes there'll be like a flood of work. You'll feel like you're on top of the moon. People will be hiring you all the time. And then sometimes someone's asked the question: how do you react on a situation where people kind of create a project themselves and then bid on it? Basically, we have a team dedicated to hunting that kind of thing down, and I wouldn't be doing that, because if you do, we will ban you. I hate to say, because our feedback system is really important to us, and if we kind of catch people messing with it in any way that isn't legitimate, then we will remove you from the site. And I hate to say, but we're quite ruthless about that. So on top of that, there's you can basically build up your reputation, market yourself. There's just basically a lot of kind of things that you can do to kind of make sure that you get paid reasonably well. And someone here sort of mentioned a complaint. I mean, look, I'm sorry you had a poor experience. I'll tell you what, I'll give you my email at the end. Just send an email to me directly and I'll get it sorted for you. Yeah, again, one of the other kind of features of Freelancer, and this one is really important, is what we call our milestone payment system. And the way that works is, rather than, the employer kind of paying you at the end of the project, when there's a chance that they can kind of back out of the payment, what basically happens is we kind of take a payment in to ourselves, to Freelancer, and we kind of hold on to it. And that's called a milestone payment. So, when the employer starts the project, they put some money down up front to us in the form of a milestone. Then when you deliver some sort of, phase of the work or some sort of milestone of the work itself, then you ask the employer to release the milestone after giving them that piece of work. And by kind of breaking the project up, you substantially reduce the risk of not being paid. The chance that you don't get paid is extremely low, as long as you use the milestone payment system properly. And here's an idea of actual Ukrainian earnings over time. So this is a real graph. I kind of know some programming, some database languages, and so I actually queried this out myself this morning. And you can see that Ukrainian freelancers have earned over $8 million through the site all time, which is a pretty huge amount of money. And every month, we're kind of paying out about 150 grand to Ukrainian freelancers. On average, and that's growing kind of pretty substantially, and we hope that it will kind of continue to grow in the future. That's kind of what my job is to make sure that volume of work coming into the site, and that's the volume of work that we can pay out to our freelancers. Yeah, $150,000 per month goes to all of the Ukrainian freelancers that work on our site. Now, obviously, not every Ukrainian freelancer on our site, earns the same share of that, because some of them earn a lot more than others because they're very established freelancers. Some are just getting started. But on average, the total amount of money that we pay out every month to Ukrainian freelancers is currently about 150,000. In fact, last month it was about 160 or 170,000. And this next graph kind of shows, how big our Ukrainian community is. So all time, 150,000 Ukrainians have actually signed up on the site. Some of those are employers, and I'll show you a graph of how many projects have actually been done by employers in the past. Some of those are freelancers, and we kind of get about another 5,000 Ukrainians at the moment signing up every month, which is pretty amazing. Between 3,000 and 5,000. Now, on the other hand, if you own a small business or a startup and you're listening here today, then Freelancer is a great resource for you too. It's a great way to access like a giant global talent pool for just about anything that you need done. So basically what you do is you jump on our site, you click the hire button. It kind of presents a page that looks a little bit like this. You kind of select what your type of work is. You give your project a name. And then you kind of enter some skills related to it. So if it's a website project and you want to write it you want it written in PHP, then you might put the PHP skill. Or if you just want general website, a general developer, then you might just put website skill. And then you describe your project, and you kind of just say, hi, I'm a cafe owner in Kiev. I'm looking to kind of get my website built. Here's some examples of what I want my website to look like, and then they go on from there. And then you can add files and select a budget, and then there's a couple of upgrades too, which I haven't shown. This is actually the number of projects posted by Ukrainians. So Ukrainians are not just earners on the site; they're actually, spending money on the site too and hiring other people from around the world. So there's been about 24,000 Ukrainian projects posted all time, and every month we get about 750 Ukrainian projects, which is pretty amazing. So Ukrainian businesses and entrepreneurs are also using Freelancer to find talent. And one of the greatest things you can kind of do here is that, today, because of things like Freelancer, you can kind of start your business off the back of a credit card. Which is truly amazing. You only have to spend, maybe a couple of $1,000 US max, or even less. $1,000 US can start you an online business, by hiring freelancers on our site, because it's just so much easier and so much cheaper. You don't need to pay local agency rates or anything like that. I didn't censor that. I'm more than happy to kind of justify it. Anyway, I want to talk about our mobile app. So one of the other things we offer is that you can kind of talk with your employers, you can post jobs, you can browse for jobs, you can bid on jobs, all while you're on the go. So you don't need to be sitting at your desktop. If you guys have a smartphone or something like that, or a phone with internet access, then you can just jump on and still be earning money. Yeah, and so that's kind of just a screenshot of it. And we have an iPhone and an Android app, so we're pretty multi-device. And this is kind of just an example of some of the things you can do. You can browse projects, you can bid on projects, you can award and accept projects, and you can kind of talk to your employers through your contact list. One of the other things we do is we offer a thing called contests. And contests is where instead of bidding on a project, you actually submit real kind of prototype work or real kind of sketch designs and things like that. Yeah, great, thanks. That's good to hear, whoever wrote that last comment. Anyway, so you can basically jump online and you can actually kind of bid for work using your own skills directly. And I'll kind of show you what I mean by this. Here we have a contest. This is basically where some guy has, I think he's from the United States, he's decided to get a logo designed by basically creating a contest. And what he's done is he said to everyone, submit your designs to me and I'll pick the one that I like the most. And you can see here, he's awarded it. And the winner of this actually won $175 for their particular design. And I mean, that logo design probably didn't take them a huge amount of time. So, this is a really good way to get started, because instead of bidding based on your reputation, you're actually bidding based on the work you're doing, which is kind of, as I said, it's a really good way for new freelancers to get started on the site, because reputation doesn't matter as much, because you're submitting real work. And then if the employer likes your work, they'll pick you for the prize, and then we'll actually give you a reputation based on the contest. On top of that, we actually make it so that contest reputation is worth a lot more than the reputation you get on a project. So employers are even more likely to hire you if you win a contest compared to a project. Here's some other examples of contests. So here's one, a 3D modeling contest. This guy basically provided a kind of mock-up, or I think it was an architectural sketch of a room, and just to describe the kind of stuff he wanted in it. And people basically rendered up a 3D kind of model, or a 3D sketch almost of that room. I'll discuss that in a minute. I kind of want to get through the presentation first, and then I'll kind of address anyone's kind of issues if they have them. This is an example of the winning bidder, which, as you can see, the quality of work that kind of goes through the site is quite high, or at least I think so. I'd be pretty happy if someone sketched my bedroom out like that. And you can see here that here's a couple more contests. Here's that industrial design of a water kettle that we were talking about earlier. I think I showed you guys this right at the start. Here's the actual contest for it, $240 prize. And, you know, the guy that won, you know, basically got started on the site just by submitting kind of a reasonably, you know, not a simple design, but I don't think that would have taken him that long. Here's an example of our personal favorite. We actually bought this design off the contest holder. Sorry. And yeah, so now we kind of own the IP to this, and we kind of use it to promote contests. Here's an example of I think it was an eyewear store. This guy was an Indian employer. He got that design. I think that's, you know, pretty amazing. You know, the other thing is we very recently bought an online marketing forum called Warrior Forum. This is kind of where, you know, it's basically the biggest internet marketing. Oh, funnily enough, you've just come on. It's not off topic at all. Yeah, yeah. So the purchase of Warrior Forum is actually working out really well for us, and I'll kind of explain why. Because internet marketing is kind of one of the kind of 8 major categories of work on Freelancer, and by kind of buying the #1 internet marketing community, not only, you know, do we get access to an incredible resource for our own marketing, we get access to an incredible, you know, base of potential freelancers, but we also, you know, Warrior Forum has a really established reputation in the internet marketing community, and a lot of really famous people actually got their start on this forum. And we actually used a lot of the techniques found in Warrior Forum to grow Freelancer. And so when we found out the owner of Warrior Forum was kind of looking to get out of that particular business, we were like, well, why don't we buy it? Because, you know, we love this site, and we kind of felt that, you know, that there was just a lot of opportunity to improve it further and further and really kind of develop it out. So we have a number of plans around Warrior Forum, and I'll kind of go through these in a minute. So, you know, Warrior Forum has almost 1 million users, about 8 million posts, and it also has a marketplace inside it. And there's been over 50,000 jobs that have gone through that particular internet marketing marketplace. Sorry, that's a bit of a tongue twister. And, you know, some of the other things that we've done with Warrior Forum, my personal favorite is actually our new product called Warrior TV, where basically we kind of get some of the best internet marketers and entrepreneurs from around the world. You know, people like Noah Kagan, who is basically one of the key people behind Facebook's growth. We got the guy from Moz, and Moz, for those of you who don't know, is like a massive SEO kind of site, basically, that basically tells people how to optimize their website, and also offers a whole bunch of products on the side. We've got growth hackers on there. We got Joanna Wibe on there, and she is probably the best copywriter in the world, in my opinion. We continually on Freelancer use her tricks to optimize our own website. But anyway, these guys are all like really big personalities in the internet marketing community, and we sit them down for an AMA and basically kind of go through what they've been doing, and kind of ask them key questions that the community wants to know. And if you're looking to get started in internet marketing, those are a great resource. They'll give you a really good idea. Also, if you just own a website or something like that, and you're looking to get more traffic to it or something like that, or, you know, make the website perform better, like, I can't recommend this enough. I mean, I make this compulsory viewing for all my staff. All my staff have to watch these, or otherwise I kind of get on their back a bit. Anyway, so I just kind of wanted to run through a real project. So this one was actually done by a Ukrainian, of course. It was a football fan in the US, and he designed a novelty hat of all things, Kickstarter. And he actually hired a Ukrainian freelancer to create a 2D video for that Kickstarter campaign. He was quoted about $2,000 US locally, paid $600 on Freelancer, and so on and so forth. And the campaign went okay, but I mean, the real thing that he was happy with was just the quality of work that he got out of it. And this is the profile of the actual freelancer that he hired, Rokita Video. And you can see some of their portfolio and so on and so forth. And then, you know, this is the review that he got. And as I said, it is really important to get reviews from your employers, because that kind of becomes your currency on the site. So the employer wrote, I had a 2-minute 2D animation created, wrote a video, did a great job making adjustments for changes and worked to a very tight deadline, very professional. Do you guys kind of see what the employer is valuing here? He's valuing quality. He's valuing your willingness to go above and beyond by making changes. He's valuing how hard you work by making a very tight deadline. And then the employer is also valuing the communication that you actually deliver. Especially in his last comment, very professional manner. Basically, what he's saying is, I had a really good experience because the freelancer communicated with me really, really well. Come on. Sorry, I'm just trying to skip to the next slide here. Here we go. It's coming. Oh yeah, and then on our site, we also have a really awesome community. And a lot of the reason for that is there's a lot of people who join our site, and they're not earning a lot of money at the time. And Freelancer kind of really changes their life. Especially in certain countries, they might go from earning sort of $10 a day to $10 an hour. Which is sort of like earning 10 times as much as you earn today. And so that kind of buys a lot of brand loyalty for us, and we really love that kind of stuff. And you'll kind of see we kind of do competitions for our users and all this kind of stuff. And I'll actually show you the results of one of those competitions. So what we did is we told our community, I'll tell you what, we'll give you $25,000 in prizes if you go out and you kind of expose our logo around the world. And what did we get back from that $25,000? Well, we got this ridiculously huge banner in Bangladesh, and about 5,000 people from the village showed up to erect, I think it was a 240-foot banner on a stage in their village, and then they actually did a giant march down the streets wearing freelancer costumes. That's the kind of effect that it has on people. This here is Nepal's most famous landmark, a giant tower, and there's the freelancer logo hanging off it. I mean, Nepal's most famous thing, other than Mount Everest, obviously. Sorry, but yeah, their second most famous thing. Here's Pakistan again, a giant banner they erected on the main streets of Karachi. Here's some guys skydiving with the logo in the USA. I think those guys were serial employers. Here's someone underwater, and here's some guys with a giant freelancer balloon. Anyway, look, guys, I think I'll probably have to call it there. It's in and out. I really hope that was of value to you. I'm going to quickly type my email into chat here. I mean, if you want to discuss anything with me, then feel free just to shoot me an email. Maybe preface it with the name of the conference in the subject line, just because I do get quite a large volume of emails, and I might not respond if I kind of just think, it's just some random person. So if you guys just put in the subject line the name of the conference or something like that, then I'll be sure to respond to you. That's my email there. All right. Yeah. So as I said, if you have any questions for me after the presentation or anything, feel free just to shoot me an email, and I guess I'll call it quits. Thanks again, guys. Yeah. Add that to the subject line. eBiz2015. Awesome. And I hope to see you guys on the platform and earning money soon. And as I said, feel free, even when working on the platform, to email me at any time. I'm always available. I'm based in the UK right now, although I am originally Australian, as you can probably tell from my accent. No problem, guys. I'll catch you later.
All right, thank you very much, Adam. That's like really great presentation. Gives a lot of motivation to our participants, and I'm sure in the nearest time, freelancers will have a few thousands at least new back from Ukraine. So yeah, like the participants of our conference are like more than 3,000 people in general. So many people will also see the presentation in a recording way, yeah, so they will have a copy. And yeah, thanks a lot. It was really interesting as well, not only for me, but all the rest people. And it's like really made clear many things, yeah, I suppose. So guys, let's like tell thank you to Adam. You can make like pluses all around, and yeah, that was really nice.
All right,
So,
thanks guys. I really appreciate it. I'll catch you later. And as I said, feel free to email me at any time. See you
perfect,
guys.
perfect. Thank you very much. All right. Окей. Іване, будь ласка, тоді зупини зараз запис так, того касту нашого.